This used to be me. I was about 10 years old at the time, and I vividly remember playing with this. It was the only motorcycle I owned, but I didn't own it because it was beautiful, or colorful, or the most exciting toy. It was because of the guy riding it, Valentino Rossi.
I still remember watching his races on an old CRT TV, and I genuinely held my breath at every race. Back then, I didn't realize why. Why was I so attracted to this rider? But now, 13 years later, I think I have a good idea.
This video is an homage to a man, to a career, to an inspiration. This is VR46.
Rossi wins the British Grand Prix here at Donington. Can he rob it?
Speaking of, why 46? Why not 45? Or any other number for that matter? Well, it turns out there are multiple options.
In his debut at Misano, Rossi got to share a 125cc Aprilia with two other riders from different classes, Marco and Maurizio Pagano. And you can guess what number happened to be on this bike already. In fact, the number was chosen by the two brothers because of a Japanese rider they were really impressed by.
But this is just half the story. The other half has a lot to do with his dad, Graziano Rossi.
The number 46 was the one Graziano used in his most successful year of racing on a 250cc motorcycle back in 1979. Funny enough, that's the exact same year when Vale was born. Ever since, Valentino never dropped this number. In fact, it's tradition that once a rider wins the world championship, they can take the number 1, but not Rossi. He never did. And it got to a point where his name became synonymous with the number 46.
Other than his number, there is another nickname that he goes by, the Doctor, or Il Dottore in Italian. Nicknames are a common thing in MotoGP. You have riders like Thriller Miller, the Professor, Kentucky Kid, or Desmodovi. But why the Doctor? Turns out there are multiple options, and we don't know exactly which one is true.
One theory states that Rossi received the title of doctor in Italy. While having nothing to do with medicine, it does represent a high grade and commands respect from other peers. And so, technically, you could say that Rossi is a doctor.
Another theory stated by his father is that in Italy, a doctor is a person that is respected by everyone. He is admired and very important to his community, sort of like Vale is for MotoGP, and so the Doctor.
And finally, Rossi does like to joke about, saying that his name, Rossi, is a really popular name among doctors in Italy. You can pick any of these you want. We might never find out the true origin of the nickname, and it doesn't really matter.
This fun side of Valentino wasn't restricted to his off-track appearances though, and the best proof of that are his victory celebrations. Here are some of them, from a time when Vale had to go to the toilet, to him getting stopped by the Italian police.
He may have stopped. Well, so much for that rule. He's gonna go to the toilet.
In fact, after the later stunt, he got a phone call from his grandmother where she asked if he actually got fined by the police on the racetrack and if he was alright. I know, that's really wholesome, but none of this could have been possible without his dedicated fan club. They put together all of these celebrations, and some of them were a lot more thought out than we might think.
It's sort of expected from an Italian guy to be more flamboyant, maybe a little eccentric. That's maybe why there is no surprise that Valentino had plenty of superstitions and race rituals. For example, watch any of his races. He always brings along with him a small toy turtle, which was a gift from his mother before his first ever karting race at the age of 6.
Then he goes to watch the start of the Moto3 race. He can never miss it. Then, when approaching his motorcycle on the grid, he always stops a few meters before and stretches. That's before bowing down to the right side of the motorcycle and grabbing the footpeg. He said that by doing this, he is talking with the motorcycle. Also, while riding down the pit lane, he usually stands up and adjusts his leathers with the right hand. Always.
Do any of these rituals work? No, not really. Even Vale said so himself. But still, it's interesting. And at the end of the day, if they can add anything, even moral support, then where's the harm in that? You can think of careers like you think of climbing a mountain. Some are higher, some are lower, some are steeper, and some are more mellow. The Rossi Mountain? Well, it's an entire Everest, and then some.
Over his career, Valentino managed to gather 9 world titles. Those are 9 years out of his 25-year career where he was the absolute best.
Side by side, Valentino Rossi wins the race. He wins the world title. What a MotoGP event. What a ride by Piaggi. Rossi, the new world champion. Rossi,
And arguably, those 9 years should have been 10. Back in 2015, the title fight between him and Lorenzo was, let's call it, heated. A controversial incident in the second-to-last race that caused Marquez to crash meant that Rossi would start towards the back of the grid in the last race. The championship was still on the line at this point, but fans aren't really mad at this move by Marquez. The anger stems from the last race. Rossi started 22nd and managed to claw back his way all the way up to 4th. Lorenzo was leading, Marc behind him, and then Dani Pedrosa completed the podium. Now, Marc is an aggressive rider, so begs the question, how come he never, not even once, attacked Lorenzo's position throughout the race? But suddenly, when Dani attacked Marc, the latter quickly found the pace and aggressiveness back to get his second place.
You see, fans aren't mad because of that crash in Sepang. They aren't that mad at Lorenzo for anything that he did in the last race. They are mad because this is not a nation sport. This should be the best rider wins. And that day, Lorenzo wasn't the best rider, but he did get a lot of outside help. And that one place difference granted him the title of world champion.
And it also granted him a lot of boos on the podium festivities. But let's get back to our beloved Italian. Other than the world titles, he managed to gather 150 GP wins throughout his career and 199 podiums. Well, this script is being written right before the last 2 races, so who knows? And you might think that all of these victories can diminish the importance of any specific one, but for Valentino, there will always be one win that will matter most, above any other fight, any other duel, or any other race. And that moment was back in 2004. His first year at Yamaha. And more specific, the South African race, where Rossi proved to everyone and to himself that he can win on any motorcycle, not just on the Honda that he used to ride. And that win was even sweeter, coming from a fantastic duel with Max Biaggi throughout the last laps.
Run it wide, Rossi back in front. Oh, the Emperor leads, the Doctor leads away from the Emperor. Rossi is very, very close indeed. They come onto the back straight, it's Maha rider. It tightens up, Rossi goes through. There was an inch, and Rossi's done it, and there's nothing Biaggi can do about it. They break for the left-hander. One bend to go for the world champion. Rossi is going to do it. The checkered flag beckons the Doctor. The checkered flag is shown. Valentino Rossi wins the Africa's Grand Prix from Yamaha and from Max Biaggi.
Just like climbing a mountain, there comes a time where it appears that the path is blocked and you need to invent something in order to get over it. And in racing you need a lot of creativity, and Vale had that. Everyone expects overtaking on the straights, but Vale managed to overtake in some places where no one thought any motorcycle could ever pass another vehicle. But Rossi did it.
The duels he had will stay in the history books as some of the greatest displays of racing of all time.
Here comes Lorenzo up the inside. Oh, and he goes so close to Rossi as he goes past, and Lorenzo claims the lead. Oh, Rossi's got him back on the brakes in the turn. 3 bends coming up. There'll be one nothing on that. Lorenzo almost. Oh, okay, Lorenzo's going to go through, and he's gone through on Valentino Rossi. Is he going to take the lead? He does. And there's no way through there. Valentino Rossi, and Lorenzo pushing it so hard in there. He said to me before this weekend, if you go into these corners first, you know you're going to win the race. Can Rossi invent something though? Lorenzo still leads the way. Rossi very, very close indeed. They plunge down the hill. We ride with Valentino Rossi. Lorenzo now into turn 13. And Rossi's invented something in the final corner, but Lorenzo gets close to the back, and Rossi has beaten him. Rossi goes through. Pushes third wide. Takes the one like that. Second mission was more around the outside. Going up the whole straight. Unbelievable stuff. And Rossi comes right back at the we haven't seen much like this. Rossi runs on track and pushes through the wall. Trying to make time up turn 5. Rossi's going to try and get straight back underneath it. And Snowden's going to keep the Grand Prix. A big old wheelie as he crosses the line.
With climbing most mountains, you get to a top, to the peak. And from there's really only one place you can go, and that is down, right? Well, for most people, it is. But there is that one person from time to time that decides to build a shelter on top of the mountain, to build a school teaching others how to climb it. And that person never has to leave the peak. Because what they loved was the mountain itself, not the success Instagram picture they took on top of it.
This is Rossi. Yes, winning is nice, but what he truly loves is racing, especially on two wheels. And when you do what you really love, you will always find a way to keep connected with that passion. And most importantly, when you start sharing that passion with others, that's when you become not just a really good racer, but a living legend.
Let's start with race teams. Here, Rossi won't just have one racing team. For 2020, he actually sponsors one Moto3 team, two Moto2 teams, and one MotoGP team in collaboration with Ducati.
Where are these riders going to come from? Well, most likely from his own academy, the VR46 Riders Academy, where he takes young Italian talent and guides them in the world of racing. Where will they train? Well, at the Moto Ranch, a training facility also created by Valentino.
You see, Vale won't just have his name still present in MotoGP. He built an entire ecosystem for riders to be able to achieve the same glory that he has throughout his career. If this isn't dedication, I don't know what is.
Oh, and he also has a pizza shop in his hometown of Tavullia. It's definitely on my bucket list. Over 25 years. That's how long this man has been in the world of racing. For reference, I am 24. He has literally been competitively racing for longer than I have been alive. In these years, he managed to break record after record and inspire thousands, maybe millions of riders out in the world. Everywhere around the world. And he still plans to race in the future, just with 2 more wheels.
In motorsports, people come and go. Most riders have a short few years of glory and then slowly get forgotten. Most riders will never get to the level, not just racing level, but to the sportsmanship level that Rossi managed to achieve. He will be forever remembered by fans as a person who got people on 2 wheels, as a role model for a lot of kids.
Will there ever be another Rossi? Maybe, or maybe not. But there will always be just one doctor. So all I can say, and I can say it in the name of millions of people around the world, grazie Vale, grazie mille.